This podcast contains some magical adult language. Listener discretion is advised. And sorry, Mom.
I'm going to Disney World. I'm going to...
Whoa. You're not Mickey Mouse, you're a rat.
Rat smack! Besides, they're tourists. What do they know?
Welcome to Rat Castle, a progressive chat about Disney magic without the pixie dust. I am your very white, very straight, very cisgendered man who is hosting this podcast named Nathan Hartman. And with me today are much more multicolored and wonderful people than this piece of stale bread talking to you at the moment. And that includes Victoria. Hello, Victoria.
Hello.
Victoria.
She's doing great. She's really,
doing fine.
Yeah.
It was a great intro. Good.
Thank you very much. Well, if you remember last episode, I was very about myself, and this week I've decided to not be about myself.
You're not a piece of stale white bread, though. You're a fresh slice of wonder with mayo on it. How about that?
That's not too bad. I'll take that. Maybe I just a dash of sugar on it.
Just a little. Right.
Very Midwestern of me.
Miracle Whip. How about that? Yeah.
So that voice, of course, is Dave. Hello, Dave.
Howdy. Hi.
Dave, how is your dog doing?
Goodness.
Tell us a little bit about your dog real quick before we continue on. Because you started a story off mic that I said you have to stop. We must continue the story on mic. What did your beautiful husky puppy do?
Oh, he is a 2-year-old husky named Ziggy Stardog, the husky from Mars, named after David Bowie because he's a redhead. He ate an entire Little Caesars pizza. That was in the box that I set down briefly on the coffee table, like not on the kitchen counter, which he knows not to go on, but I brought it to the living room, put it on the counter because we were going to have it. I left the room for maybe 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes max, maybe, just to get some other stuff. And I came back, and it wasn't like he was in the middle of eating it after 90 seconds. It was gone. Like literally he had swallowed whole pieces and an entire large pizza. I can't be mad. It's a dog. It's funny. Yeah. It was partially my own fault. But I was like, dude, you are going to be so sick.
As someone who has probably also eaten a full Little Caesars pizza in one sitting, I agree. You do get sick. And also, they're not sponsoring this podcast, but if they would like to, I take back everything I've said because I literally now want Little Caesars as well.
I got some in the fridge.
Yeah. Oh, see, it's a little far. Let's see here. There's 2 questions I have, Dave. Question 1 is which type of pizza?
It was a pepperoni that I got with my T-Mobile Tuesday coupon, so it was like $3. So I can't.
And it was a discount pizza.
I know.
Maybe you consider it like this. It's actually good. It's a good dog because he ate the discount pizza, not the full price pizza. Any Wonder Bread or garlic bread as well, or is it just pizza?
No, it's just pizza.
So what did you do for dinner after you?
I went into the fridge, found some leftovers, and said, "Well, I guess I'm having this now."
Yeah. Which, to be honest, you probably should have had the leftovers to begin with.
Sure. And it's better than 2 weeks before that when he ate an entire sock all at once, like literally swallowed a sock.
He probably agrees too. Pizza's better.
Oh yeah, that was a rough week.
I'm sure expensive too.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah, not $3.
Oh, yeah.
The other voice there, of course, Janine. Hello, Janine. How are you this evening?
Oh, I'm doing well. I got my Mountain Dew Spark Zero.
Woo!
We're ready to rock and roll. Yeah.
What is this, Howard Stern? We're rock and rolling and drinking Mountain Dew. Baba Booey.
Baba Booey. Baba Booey. Baba Booey.
Howard Stern's penis. Okay, so on that note, we have our first returning guest joining us. Sarah couldn't make it tonight. She had a business affair and couldn't make it. I think it was a dinner or something. She's cool, so she's got stuff to do. But don't worry, we have a great guest. Jessica from TikTok's Tremainetok is back with us. Hello, Jessica. Welcome.
Yay! Thank you for having me back.
Of course. It's wonderful to have you.
Excited to be here.
Lots to talk about tonight, so let's get right to it. And start with, of course, down here in old Sunshine State, we're going to talk about something that got released. And that is, of course, the Magicband Plus, which is now being sold. If you haven't seen these things, they are like Magic Bands, but somehow they suck more. A solid color Magicband Plus is $35. But of course, right now that's at a discounted rate of $25. Thanks, Disney. And with designs, they're around $45. But again, if you have a pre-arrival discount, it'll be $35. Now, what do these magical bands do that the other magical bands don't do? Well, they do little light up things. They have little LEDs on them, and they light up like your little sister's watch from McDonald's that one place time. So there you go. That's what it is. It's a Happy Meal toy.
Do they
that-
vibrate also?
Oh, they do vibrate also, but
That's fun.
but that is fun, but not that good.
Less fun.
Yeah, it does not vibrate that well. There's no
Not
added,
well enough to matter.
Yeah, there's no added
Yeah.
benefit, if you know what I mean. The thing about these magic bands, of course, is that they light up. You can go to any of the golden statues, and when you're done worshiping at the statue of Figment, as we all do, laying our slaughtered lambs, you can wave at it, and it will make a generic, like, music sound, basically, for Figment.
Just the Figment one?
The Figment
No, all
one
of
makes a whatever
Oh,
noise.
okay.
The rest of them do things and have like actual sounds. They apparently didn't want to pay Dave Goles to come back and say something as Figment, or who knows.
Wow.
So it just goes boop, 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 and it's not even from the ride. But I mean, what's Disney World if we're not somehow dissing Figment with our corporate strategy? Yeah, what do you guys think? These Magic Band Pluses have come out. There is, of course, already an issue. They've been delayed. They were out for like 5 seconds on store shelves a couple months ago, and then they realized, oh yeah, we're not supposed to put these out yet. And so they are finally out, and all of the batteries last about 2 hours, according to people that used them for the Bounty Hunter, the new Bounty Hunter game at Galaxy's Edge. And that is probably because, of course, that they've been sitting in store shelves for months, draining. Oh, and you can't use it when you get it. You have to charge it first. So
What?
They're somewhat charged in the box, but they're not fully charged.
No, some
Just-
people got them and they weren't even charged.
Completely dead.
That's
Completely dead.
nuts.
And what I was interpreting was the 2 hours for bounty hunters was after a full charge.
yes.
Yes,
That's nuts.
because it only takes for a full charge, from what I was told, about an hour and a half.
So it takes almost as long to charge it as you get use out of it?
I had to look it up because on the website it said they can last up to 3 days.
I read that they do still function as a normal Magic Band even after the battery dies, which is an important distinction. It doesn't just become like a
That is a good distinction to make. That's true.
Right, right. It's
Um,
still the only thing that runs out is the lights and the vibration.
Yeah.
I think all the sensors, even for bounty hunters, use the regular Magic Band, which is odd. I think there's feedback for bounty hunters with vibrate and lighting. I think as you get
Mhm.
close to things,
Yes.
and so that it needs that. But still, they spent so much thought and time and money developing those original bands to have like those batteries last months. You know,
Yeah.
years.
Years.
years. I still have them from
Yeah.
years ago that still work. It just seems so odd that they would double down on that.
It's probably just the limit of battery capacity for size and
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah, yeah. So that way they can sell you a second band that you put on your wrist that is a battery. That's what they do.
I'm also a little confused about like the interactive stuff because I didn't realize the golden statues were staying.
Well, they were going to take them down, but they tried to move one of those golden statues, and people's flesh was flaying off their hands. They have power they didn't know about, and so there's just no moving them now. It's apparently when you embody something with the soul of an IP, it pushes back if you try to get rid of
Yeah.
it.
Like
So,
it's like
we're
a
learning.
pharaoh's tomb. It's cursed. Don't
Yeah,
touch
right.
it.
Exactly.
Don't touch it. Don't move it.
It was weird, but I waved my hand at the Figment, and it did say "Death is only the beginning" to me, and I thought that was strange. But
You heard that too? I heard that too.
oh, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
If I was let's flash back to pre-COVID. If I was a regular guest and I came and bought a one-day ticket, did I have the option of it being a Magic Band, or was it always an upcharge?
If you stayed at the hotel, you would get a basic one for free,
For free, right?
But
And
you no
then-
longer do.
which you no longer do.
That's the part I can't. The fact that they're charging even hotel guests for it. Like I'm okay with them selling them, but the whole point of them was to be, originally was
think
collectible and
The basic ones were like $10 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, now they're like
15.
30.
Okay, let's go through the whole process here. They make Magic Bands. They invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in technology to make these the thing that you use everywhere. You can open your resort with it. You can do all sorts of stuff. But of course, they realize, sorry, my cat is being very annoying.
Very cute.
You were doing a good job though.
You were hanging, and I was trying desperately to
Get it-
keep a straight face,
I'm
but I
sorry,
couldn't.
everybody.
Put out a
was-
pizza. Put out a pizza.
Put out a pizza for my cat. That would work, and then there'd be more barfing. Sweet, sweet baby Nova. Okay, so where was I? I'm not cutting any of this out. Okay, so yeah, you have these Magic Bands. They invest all this money in it. They do this thing where they're like excited, and then they go, "Oh yeah, everyone's got a phone that does the same thing. I guess we'll add stuff to the phone." So they add, you can open your doors with your phone, and you can do all sorts of stuff with your phone. And then they get all invested in the Play app, and then they forget about the Play app. And
I forgot about the Play app.
everyone did. So now you have them pulling off this, hey, here's an interactive band, but you also have to have your phone out to kind of do some of the stuff. In reality, my thought is like everything that this band does, they could theoretically do with your phone, including the vibrating. Like there's a lot that they can do, maybe not the lights, but they can do something on the screen. This is just another example for me of Disney saying they'll buy anything and we'll give them a better experience, even though it's a nominal better experience, still a better experience. We'll give them a nominal better experience if they pay us more. And every time I keep hearing, because I said you're an absolute sucker if you buy one of these, is what I said on Twitter, and people lost their mind because they were like, you don't understand, it's a souvenir, and you can, and I get that, but you're setting another precedent that says, okay, charge me a little bit more for something that should be free, please. And they're going to keep doing that, and eventually that idea, that thought process, which goes, small like that, and then goes the lightning lane, and then eventually prices you out. Like there's just a point where something like this, and that might be a little bit hardcore, but I just find this to be sort of like a dying last breath for a thing they don't really use anymore anyway.
When they first came out, there a lot of phones didn't have RFID in them, and like you said,
True, yeah.
My Apple Watch has an RFID in it. Your credit card has an RFID in it. So I mean, it is the only distinction between the RFID on your phone and the RFID in a Magic Band, even the older Magic Bands, is that there's two different kinds. There was a close-up one for tap, and then there's one that's a slightly longer distance, which I don't know if phone RFID could do that, but it could be easily supplanted by Bluetooth beacons and other technology. But
I don't think it does, because to get the photo pass from the rides, you have to have your Bluetooth on. And so I think if they could use the RFID, I would not have lost my Cosmic Rewind picture because I forgot to turn my Bluetooth back on.
But you didn't have did you have your Magic Band on when you wrote it, or just did it?
No, I haven't.
Well, there's your answer then. The long range RFID was probably used for Magic Photos and on-ride photos because it could sense you from a moving vehicle rather than having to tap a point. But if you can do that on Bluetooth, then why? This is a money grab.
Right, because Cosmic Rewind, there's a little signage thing that has a QR code that is basically for you to check your settings on your phone. It takes you directly to the Disney Experience app settings to make sure you've turned on getting location-based photography, basically. And they've added that to a couple things now. So they're aware of this need for that, for phone stuff. I mean, they put the literal AP pass on my phone. Like, I don't need the band for anything anymore.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Jess, you had a thought.
Yeah, I did. It was kind of just piggybacking off of what you were talking about. You were kind of talking about like it being like a better experience. I think that the problem with Disney recently, in recent years, not even just super recently, is that people kind of misconstrue a more complicated experience for a better experience. Just think about like back when they first took away like paper fast passes. Like people were freaking out because they had to get fast passes and they can only get in a certain amount, ahead of time on the app, right? So people freaked out. It was a more complicated way of doing a very simple thing, but it was under the guise of making it easier or a better experience. And the same thing happened with a couple other things, but this is just looks like like they were saying the same thing about like Lightning Lane and Genie Plus and things like that. They're just making it more confusing and more complicated under the guise of, oh, we're giving you new features, instead of saying, hey, we've just made this more complicated so most people have no idea what the heck they're actually paying for. So we can overcharge them for things they don't realize they're actually being overcharged for.
Oh, absolutely.
At this point, if you buy a Magic Band, that's an aesthetic choice, not a need.
And listen, I have like an OG Magic Band, but I don't, the reality is, and I know, because I have a cousin who works for Disney still, and a lot of the issue she's seen is the battery life. It's so funny because she has to keep telling people it can last up to 3 days, and they're like, it's not lasting 3 days. And then people throwing temper tantrums because they're not being included in their hotel stay. So for example, she's hearing from a lot of people saying like, oh, well, I'm just going to cancel my hotel reservation and re-reserve that same spot or whatever. Like people threatening to cancel so that they can get the new Magic Band.
That's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
$35 and they discount it to like $24.95 if you're staying on property. It's like that should be just rolled into your just disguise it in the hotel fees.
That's a $3 band, by the way. That's not
right. It's not even that expensive.
Maybe $3.
Those Chinese kids get like what, a dime an hour, so they're not terribly expensive. Maybe that's a little too real.
Can we talk about the fact that they're just a miserable thing to wear?
Oh yeah,
that too.
They're so uncomfortable.
They're so
uncomfortable.
And the new ones are thick.
I was hoping that they would maybe make it more. I don't know how they could, because it's just a piece of plastic that gets no aeration and you just sweat under it, and it's just ugh.
And the glow at the show thing to me is always a little odd, because like the hats aren't great because you can't see your own light. This thing I have to hold my watch in front of me. That's no fun. The fun ones they did were the little wands, the little Mickey hand with the magic wand on it. Because kids can conduct and it's right in front of their face and they're part of the show. That makes sense. Putting that functionality into your watch,
it's just so they can add a bullet point.
Honestly, if I'm completely honest, they've just relied so much on technology that you're looking at your phone and your magic bands more than what you actually paid for.
Yeah,
and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Universal's numbers are through the roof, and they don't have reservations, and they don't have magic bands, and like there's and even just the reservation thing, there's no spontaneity even in visiting the place anymore.
No.
Oh my God! Can I tell a quick story about that? Of course.
Yeah, please.
Oh so my cousin hits me up last week and she's like, I pulled a U. And I'm like, what? That could mean 3 different things.
And only one of them is good, right? Yeah.
And only one of them is good. And she was like, I booked a trip to Disney World. I was like, okay, when? She said this weekend. I'm like,
oh no, girl.
That's not.
I was like, did you book a park pass reservation? Had no idea what that is. I'm like, just give me your login shit.
Yeah, you don't even want to explain it. Like, just let me in. I'll do it. Yeah.
Literally, I was just like, I can't do it.
This is what I'm talking about. They're doing things to make it more complicated under the guise of, oh, well, now you have a park reservation. Like that actually does anything. It literally does nothing.
Does nothing for, no.
I cannot fathom to this day why they have any ticket booths open. If you're there and you're at a ticket booth, your day's shot already. Unless you're going to Epcot, I guess. If you can get into Epcot, which generally you can, it's all festival stuff anyway, and I guess Cosmic would be the one thing you're going to miss. But if they're there, like, it's their shot. It's over.
It's over.
I was there on a casual day. I'm going to just gloat a little bit. I did a nice breakfast at Steakhouse 71 and read my book and walked over to the Magic Kingdom because I had a reservation already, and walked in right at opening and sat down and read my book on the Frontierland porch and just chilled, and had a Dole Whip because I'm a local, and everyone else was losing their shit. Like, that whole place was just full of people. They were like, how do we get to the thing? And what do we do? And looking at their phones and trying to get to the thing. And I'm like, I can't fathom doing this like this obligation of coming to this, especially Magic Kingdom, this park. And the idea that some people are still coming in and they have no concept of what's going on, and they're like, it's almost
problem.
It's almost highway robbery at this point for Disney to even allow that to occur. But
we'll get to that in another segment, though, won't we?
Oh boy! Speaking of actual highway robbery, almost. But before we get to that, of course, let's talk a little bit about another con going on in Florida, which is Ron DeSantis saying that he's going to get rid of our good old Reedy Creek district. The Florida's head of bond finance, which you might as well say like the Lord of Chocolate. I have no idea what that means. Like the head of bond finance, the Duke of Purple, whatever. Says that that basically what it looks like. This is Ben Watkins is his name. He says that, well, Reedy Creek is basically going to come back and have the same powers that they've always had. But they're going to limit some of those powers, including Disney's ability to operate a nuclear power plant, which I think is the funniest thing. Like, well, we're going to
apparently they had that.
Yeah, we're going to get rid of Reedy Creek, but we're also going to bring it back, and we're just going to say that they can't make a nuclear power plant, basically. So Ron DeSantis gets his little culture win as he just absolutely salivates at the idea of ruining my country, and yeah, it looks like nothing's happening. Thoughts, people?
I don't know. It's just such a dumb story that kind of always the story is not what's going to happen with Reedy Creek, because like they can't materially change anything with Reedy Creek. They just can't. That like the surrounding areas, the surrounding cities and counties can't take it over, and they've said as much. Nothing's
Yeah,
gonna
they've
happen.
literally rejected it.
Yeah, they're like, no, we
we're
can't
not
do
gonna
that.
do it. Mm-mm.
So the story has always really just been DeSantis' political retribution against his foes, and that's the story. And
Yeah.
the story's been told.
Now he's bored.
Like,
He's bored
now
with
he's
Disney.
bored.
He's on to drag queens. He doesn't
Exactly.
care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
giving very much so Lord Farquaad to me.
It. Yeah. It really is. It really is.
is
That's perfect.
very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yep.
You could, as the meme is, it's the same picture when I think of Rise.
That's the same picture.
That's
Yeah.
the same picture. So there you go. That's our Disney. We don't have a lot of Disney like theme park news this time around, besides those two big things. But we got plenty of other stuff. So let's keep moving on here. And of course, one of the big things is San Diego Comic-Con is come and gone. And DC came out and they were like Shazam, and then beyond that, Marvel came out and was like, "Here's 1,000 years of material."
DC also had Black Adam and League of Super Pets, and
That's true. They did have those things. I'm not here to besmirch DC for
But still,
screwing up
but-
continually. So, but Marvel very much came out and said, we're going to exhaust you some more. How's that sound? Because as much as I do love it, the statistic is, of course, that this wave of material that's been on Disney Plus and all the movies that have come out recently, it is larger than the last 3 waves combined. I think we've talked about that before. So we're all kind of in the glut of Marvel. I'm very full. It's Thanksgiving, but Victoria, we got a whole nother plate. They're saddling up, Wreck-It Ralph style. Here's some more pancakes. What do we got?
They fed us a lot. Like
It's a
it
lot.
was a little it was a little overwhelming, to be honest. So pardon me as I get very geeky. So we're essentially 3 steps away out of this phase. We're currently in phase 4. So we got 2 shows coming out this month. Well, not this month, August. And then it's going to end with Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which was the big one of San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah. Let's talk about that trailer real quick, because that's what they released. We'll do that now. Thoughts? I'm sure you all saw the Black Panther trailer. I'm fine with it. I mean, I don't like that Chadwick Boseman died, but there's nothing I can do about that. And I think this is an interesting take. I think it's more interesting than recasting. I know that's very controversial.
Yeah, that's a big thing right now.
But I also still, and hear me now, I still think they're going to bring Killmonger back, and I still think he's going to be Black Panther. And because this whole multiverse business.
I don't know. I was looking at
we'll
the
see.
booty, and it looks like a female booty. I don't.
I'm not saying
know.
yet. I'm saying post-credit sequence.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Look, I'm
we'll
not going to
see.
complain about Michael B. Jordan coming back in any
I
capacity.
know. I just watched both the Creed movies, and I can understand why. Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited to see just Atlantis and Namor and that when that showed up on screen, I was like, that
Yeah.
looked really good.
Because Namor is messy.
Yeah,
He's a drama king, and
he's a great character.
yeah, he's got lots of beef with a lot of people. That's always fun.
I mean, I thought it was beautifully done.
It's
It was
really
Looks
pretty.
really pretty.
Yeah, it is visually. Yeah.
Visually appealing, very
Yeah.
much so.
Yeah.
The sound mixing, crisp
Oof.
as fuck. They brought back the same costume designer.
Oh, how could you not? Yeah.
And then just Angela Bassett's just monologue, just like that one bit of dialogue. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
just give her the Oscar.
Yeah.
Just give it to her.
Anyway, so that's Black Panther. I think we're all excited about that. And that's the end of Phase 4. And then Victoria, what do we got for
we're
Phase
gonna-
5? Or what do
we're
we
gonna
not have? It might be easier to start with what we don't have. There's so
Well,
much.
funny that you say that because there's still, I think in phase 6, there's still like 6 more properties that they have yet to announce. And I think they're saving that for D23.
Right, but in Phase 5, there are 10 Disney Plus shows. 10.
That's a lot. But also, it's worth my money. I mean, I
Sure.
can't complain about my Disney
Yeah.
Plus subscription. Like,
I
if you
can't.
like Marvel.
And I think phase 6 is 6 movies and 6 shows. And this is all going into 2025, I think.
It's not even that long. Like it's
We're
1,000 things and it ends in like 3 years. That's insane.
I have
the-
to be honest, you guys. I'm exhausted.
I am too.
Okay,
to be
thank
honest.
you.
Okay.
Like,
I'm
this is
so drained.
so overwhelming to me.
Like, I know the shows are like 6 episodes, but they said Daredevil came out and that's going to be 18. And that's the most they've ever done.
It's funny because from a number of titles standpoint, it's far less than what they output in comics every year, right?
Oh,
It's a
of
lot
course.
less. But
Mhm.
the amount of time that it takes to read a single comic or a trade paperback, it lets you space that out. I look at this list and go, I can't consume this much TV in a year. I rarely do. Like
Genuinely, that is where I'm at. Like, this is the amount of content that I will consume in a year across every genre.
I am so behind. I am so ashamed of, like, Victoria gave me so much crap when I confessed to her that I have not watched WandaVision. And I know.
I at least watched that.
Okay, so I am so far behind because literally I love a lot of the individual movies, right? Like I love Black Panther. I love all the Avengers movies. I've seen them all. It stopped right before WandaVision, me being able to handle watching another Marvel thing. So I think that I literally got burned out. And so now I haven't like gone back to catch up on all of it.
I was in a really similar situation where I was like, I never want to see another fucking Marvel thing ever again. But then my boyfriend started watching WandaVision, and against my will. And so I
Not
ended
against
up
my
watching.
will.
Well, I mean, there was not a conversation where it was like, you want to watch this? It was just, he put it on and I'm like, okay, I guess we're watching Marvel. And I ended up loving it.
I'm not trying to like, I'm gonna say, like, I'm also in the same place with Star Wars. Like, I am a huge Star Wars fan. I cannot handle them putting out any more movies right now. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
My brain is gonna explode.
Cassian Andor's a great character. I don't need 6 episodes of Cassian Andor. I don't.
I really don't.
I don't.
But how else are we going to stay on Disney Plus and watch the shit?
But and again, it's one of those things where this sort of saturation of those worlds and characters was absolutely common in publishing. How many hundreds of Star Wars books were there out, and the fans loved it. And so I think they are speaking to that audience, but a more casual audience, or an audience that is not as invested, but just likes the spectacle or likes the characters.
Right.
It's starting to get to be taking up. For me, it's a amount of my entertainment diet issue. It's like I love candy. I can't have candy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's an exhaustion of feeling like you have to keep up and feeling like everything's interconnected and I'll miss out if I don't see something. I think that in the long term, that's gonna really hurt overall. And then the second part of it for me is we're leaving. I mean, yes, there were intergalactic themes and, crisis on the Earth from outer space in everything leading up until now. But now we're getting into that cosmic Marvel, which starts to get really profoundly weird and very, very convoluted. And they, you can see them trying to handle that pretty well in things like Eternals and make that digestible for an audience that didn't read all the Kirby years,
Yeah.
But I feel like it's going to get to a point where people are just going to tap out and be like,
I think they tapped out at Eternals.
Yeah, they did.
They really did. Let's talk about a couple of the things in Phase 5. Just so we have, we'll talk a little bit here. We have Ant-Man the Wasp, Quantumania.
A big one.
I'm going to see it. It's Paul Rudd. I think for me, every movie in theaters is a yes, like for sure.
Yep, I know I'll end up seeing it.
If it's an animation, but it's not What If, I don't care about it. I know that's weird.
Not even X-Men 97?
I can't. I didn't grow up on X-Men 97. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it, and I think it's great. I like what I've seen. It's fun, but I gotta do something, right? But this is why I took cross stitching back up, right? Because I have plenty of time now. My hands need something to do. They're busy, so I'll watch probably that too. But yeah, what else do we have, Victoria? We'll move forward here. But what else do we have?
We got. Honestly, I'm just going to go through the ones that are going to be must watches, because at this point, like I told my friend who asked me what order she should watch everything in, I was like, honestly, just watch the origin stories and just watch some new Rockstars videos and you'll catch up in like 2 days. I'm definitely going to say Quantumania, because that's going to be the start of Phase 5. That's going to have Kang. There we go.
Skull Island,
always wanna say
Rise of
Kong.
Kang, as we know.
I always want to say Kong. What If is going to be a big one. Guardians of the Galaxy, just because it's a trilogy. Marvels, I doubt it's going to be that important. Echo, you could probably, I don't know how that's going to go.
Echo's got Daredevil.
Oh, that's correct. You're right. Loki, it's going to be important. I'm just going to do Rockstars it.
I loved Loki, so yeah, it works
I
for
loved Loki too.
me. It was my favorite of the bunch.
Yeah.
I get it was I had to watch it. I didn't want to though. Ironheart's going to be very important. X-Men 97, I'm not sure. I feel like it's only going to be important if you watch the 92 show.
Yeah.
And possibly because of Secret Wars. Blade is important because Mahershala, Agatha, I genuinely do not know. Spider-Man, I don't know if it's canon or not, so I doubt
it's not. It can't be.
Freshman year is not canon?
I don't think freshman years can't, because Tom Holland isn't even voicing the Spider-Man.
No, they were going to do a canon freshman year, and then I think they've gotten rid of it because like he gets mentored by the Osborn, by Osborn, and Doc Ock is in it, and there's a bunch
Oh,
of villains
wow.
and stuff that there's
Unless it's a
absolutely
multiverse thing.
there's
But even then,
absolutely no way that can be canon, at least our Earth, whatever it is, because like he doesn't know who Doc Ock is once he shows up in that third movie.
he
So
wouldn't.
yeah, that's why that's on
Um,
my trash pile, because I was like,
Yeah, it's in my trash pile too. Because I'm like, if it's not canon, I'm not gonna watch it. Marvel Zombies is gonna be important. Daredevil is gonna be important. New World Order is gonna be important. Thunderbolts undetermined for me.
What is
Kind of
Thunderbolts?
like the anti-hero people.
it's Suicide Squad.
Pretty
Oh,
much it's
right.
Suicide Squad.
Right.
Yeah.
It's Marvel Suicide Squad. I mean, my Phase 5 things that perk my interest the most are I'm curious to see how they finish Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. The Marvels I'm actually really excited for, because I want to see more of Kamala Khan, and I want to see where that how she interacts with Captain Marvel. I am very excited for Loki, because that was one of my favorites as well. Blade I'm super curious about, because it has to be bloody. Like
Yeah.
you can't do a Blade movie without vampire violence. And
Well,
it's
they
like,
said it's gonna connect to Moon Knight, and the villain's gonna be Dracula.
oh, okay, all right.
So I'm
that's
assuming
cool.
bloody, and I
Yeah.
accept that. Well, what's interesting is Phase 6, because that's going to be Fantastic Four, which they say is not an origin story, and we're going to get not one but two Avengers movies in the same year,
Kill me.
Christ.
Kill.
which
me.
didn't happen the last time. I think there was like maybe 2 or 3 years in between.
I was going to ask, were the other ones? Yeah, they seemed close together in my head.
Endgame was 2019, and
Infinity War was 2018. So
yeah.
About a
yeah,
year.
about it. Yeah, sure.
June, July, August, September. So 6 months in between these Avengers films.
Boy.
Yeah, it's 12 months between the other ones. They were both released in April.
We'll see. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we have more coming in Phase 6 probably at D23. That's insane. But
six more.
yeah, so I guess we're all tired.
That list is just exhausting. I gotta
That was a
say.
lot.
Yeah, Jessica, you look. I was like, we're losing Jessica.
No, it's not even that. I can't. It's not even that. I'm looking at this list and I'm like, I can't even process anything right now.
Same.
Like, how do
Like,
you have a
nothing-
plan all the way to 2025? I can't even plan what I'm doing tomorrow. I literally do not know what I'm wearing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Who does?
Kevin Feige, that's who.
Kevin Feige. Yeah.
That's why he gets paid the big bucks. Okay, well, from going from a very complex, hard to digest topic, let's move on to a complex and hard to digest topic, which is recent activity at Sesame Place. And Victoria, will you continue on by explaining what occurred, where we're currently at, and we'll try to digest it as best we can. I remember you kind of DM'd us and last week, because this happened last week, and sort of said like, do we do a special podcast on this? And I said, I think we need time to see where this all goes. So I'm glad we gave it that.
Right.
Looks like there's been some more updates.
No, I agree.
So tell us what's up.
Yeah. So what happened at Sesame Place? First off, Sesame Place is located in Philadelphia. I know some people got it confused with the Sesame Street in SeaWorld Orlando. Just to clarify that, Sesame Street and Sesame Workshop do not have anything to do with Sesame Place. That's a SeaWorld thing. With that being said, so there was a family, I believe it was like a mother had taken her 2 children. One of the girls had a birthday, and they were all African American, and they were waiting for the parade was going, and I believe it was Rosita who they claim blatantly ignored the little girls, and that blew up very quickly. And originally it was just the one video, and it was like, okay, well, there could be certain factors that play into the video. We don't have enough information. But then other similar videos started coming out, so then it kind of like snowballed from there.
The first one, there was an argument for like, oh, maybe there was just a thing. They couldn't see the low profile, there's a lot of them though.
Right.
Yeah, there's quite a few. I know there was one at one point I saw where like a little girl got pushed and one got like, it looked like she got slapped, but I can't really tell. And then Sesame Place came out with a response where they said that isn't what happened. The performer was telling someone behind them that they couldn't hold their baby or something like that. And that they spoke to the family and said they could come back, which apparently never happened. as of now, as of today, actually, there's a class action lawsuit with the main family and several other families who apparently had similar experiences. So that is what is going on. It's a messy.
That's an understatement.
It was a weird situation. As somebody who has been a character performer, Victoria and I were having this conversation. There's really two issues happening, and one is more important than the other. The one that needs to be spoken about, and that is, I'm glad is being dealt with, is the discussion of racism, because I think that is the most important. But what's happening, at least in things I've posted and what I've seen in comments on what other people have posted, is a lot of people who are finding any reason to not talk about race are talking or asking me to answer questions about character costumes and visibility. Now, I will say that 90% of the time when I was in a character costume, I saw feet. That was 90% of the time I just saw feet. That's it. Never saw faces unless it was very certain characters. So there's that, but it just seems like it's too much. So I keep getting the people, where I for a while was trying to like uplift people like Victoria who were speaking out about it. But then I would get a lot of people being like, oh, well, I heard X, Y, and Z, and isn't it true you can't see whatever? And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'll add to that, because I've had a number of people ask me, right? I work in theme parks, and have never been a full-time character employee, I've actually put on the suits a couple of times at one of those management programs where you get to go do something in the park. And so I get it. I understand the assignment, and it is hard. Let's not beat around the bush here. Being a character performer is fucking hard. Like it's a big heavy thing, not to mention the comfort and heat and all that. Just you watch those training videos from the old Disney costume training videos from the 70s that have made it to YouTube about kids like punching you and stuff, and it's awful. It's really hard. So I on one hand, I'm ready to say to listen to what SeaWorld the performer have to say in terms of what they saw, but the thing is, regardless of whether or not this was a sightline issue or not, regardless, SeaWorld should have, or Sesame Place should have fallen on their sword and not said it wasn't, not negged the people that made the complaint.
And that's what fucked
The
them
bottom
up.
line is people were hurt.
They negged
story.
them. They said that's not what happened, and it's like, dude, guys, you need to just say, we're so sorry this happened. Open with, we're sorry this happened, and move on from there. And then the other thing is, there are ways to handle that kind of, even if it was a insistent family wanting to hold a kid or whatever, there are ways to do that are not a head shake.
And like waving your hand over the kids' heads. Like if you watch that first video, the hurt on those little girls' faces.
Right. It could have been, if that performance, there's other ways to do it, and Jessica can back me up on that one. The training that you have for those kind of situations is very specific.
Yeah, I will say there's a couple of different factors too that a lot of people don't really realize. It does, but I will lead with the fact that intention is not implication. So whether or not they intended to do whatever, the implication is still that these people feel like they are unwelcome in this place. They feel like their children have been hurt. They feel like their children are being ignored. So the implication is the most important thing here, right? The intention from the performer really doesn't matter. But I do want to point out, and this is something that I talked to Victoria about, and people need to understand, I can't tell if it is one or two performers that are maybe a problem, or if this is a systemic problem within Sesame Place, because you cannot tell if it's the same performer in every single video.
Yeah.
It likely is not. And I know other people have made the point that Sesame Place is much smaller. It doesn't matter. They still have multiple performers per character, even in seasonal places like up north. So the thing is we don't know anything about that performer. We don't know if it's even the same performer in every single one of those videos. So really what we need to direct our aggression towards, in my opinion, is this a systemic problem within Sesame Place, or is this one or two employees who essentially are causing the problem for the greater population?
What I'm curious about, and I will of course say I have no experience as a performer. I will also say I'm a white dude with privilege, and I can be completely wrong about all of this. But I'm curious of course, I teach communication courses, I teach film courses and stuff, and so I have this sort of, I'm always looking at scenarios and thinking from a cultural media consumption perspective. And a couple things came out to me. One was, at this point in society, no face character, I shouldn't say face character, well, face character, any sort of meet and greet, everybody's phone's up. It is probably the most well-documented moment beyond parades in the parks. And because of that, what we're talking about is a glut of content that can, when put together in any sort of way, showcase different things depending on how you put it together. We're talking hours upon hours upon hours of content, days worth. And I probably, if I wanted to, I could look online and find any time a redhead gets passed over for a performance meet and greet, or any time, because, and again, the thing that's coming to my head is I've seen a couple of these where they're parades, right? So it really is like, we're walking, we're moving, I'm just pointing and going.
They skip a lot of people.
100%. And I feel like what I saw happen was, here's an incident, and then people said, well, let me document every single incident of this occurring. And my initial reaction is not to be defensive. I completely see that these are occurring, but to also say, I can show anything. I could probably put together any sort of recurrence with this much footage and this many days and this many interactions. I have seen characters who are walking out, and every single one of them I saw, I could have the character's perspective. They are walking to their meet and greet place. They can't stop for anyone, right? They are in the parade. They are just, it is a large wave for everybody and moving on, right? But when you recontextualize this stuff and you say, here's an incident of racism, here's an incident of racism, and here's an incident, I'm not saying those aren't, but what I'm saying is it's very easy to create the bias you're seeking because of the amount of footage and information now available to us online.
No, I
Again,
absolutely
I don't like
agree.
saying that because I'm not.
No, but it's true though. It's true.
It's absolutely
both things
just a part
can
of
be
it.
true. These people were hurt.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it is definitely, in my opinion, worth it to see if this is a cherry-picked confirmation bias situation, for sure. And even if it's not, which I don't necessarily believe that it is, I think this is potentially a real problem.
Of course.
I think that it's worth, no, and I'm not saying that you believe differently.
No,
I'm just saying, I think that this is part of the, thing with my platform, why I really vehemently discourage people from posting these things online, because number one, context, but number two, you can cherry pick anything to prove your point, like literally anywhere at any time. That doesn't mean that what happened is not true, but what it does is it confirms preconceived notions or biases that existed beforehand.
Right.
No, that's very true. I mean, and that's why when the situation first happened, I realized it was going to be mainly people going off of emotion and preconceived notions, which is why I was like, I kind of want to wait till it plays out further to make a full opinion. And that's when all the videos started coming out. So it was just like, as an African American, you have to separate the emotion and figure out like what's logically possible. And at the end of the day, it's like what Janine said, like both things can be true. And I've even gone to Sesame Place as a young child, like, so it's like I get both sides.
And it's very difficult for something to have two truths on Twitter. We all know this, right?
That's very true. I didn't touch that with a nope.
No,
I didn't go anywhere
neither.
near that on Twitter.
No, but it is that. It is both things can be true. But and to that end, if both things can be true, it also means that Sesame Place had an opportunity in their initial response to do good.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And regardless of what actually happened in the suit, regardless of what kind of, Zapruder film analysis we do on all these videos, to Nathan's point, we can sort of paint any documentary picture we want. That's the flaw in a lot of documentaries, right? And so
that's the flaw of the internet. I mean,
the law of the
truth
internet,
is
right,
manipulative at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
So regardless of truth, regardless of what happened, what Jessica said was right, that it's the impact and the optics, frankly, are something that someone at Sesame Place should have said, you know what, regardless of what happened, let's make this right. If they had found that family that day and pulled them aside and had a special one-on-one with Rosita and then showed that they did a training session with the employees about proper ways to shut down some of those improper asks from audiences during a parade, that you don't have to go no, you go and dance
That
and
would
give
never
them a face.
happen at a Disney property.
Right.
You would never see it. The behavior is exactly the same on the part of the
Right.
guest.
If you try to do that in Disney, the character blows you a kiss and moves on. It's so
Yeah.
simple to
Yeah.
do something else
Right.
to shut that down. And it's like they did everything wrong. And then
Yeah.
then you have added to that like the Sesame brand as a whole, which has been
100.
Oh,
This
and
which
that's-
makes it way worse.
And that's why it made it so much worse.
it made it worse because their institutionalized inclusion that they've been very forcefully doing over the last couple of years, which is so great.
Even Sesame Place in general. Yeah, I mean,
in
the
general,
company, but the park. Yeah.
Right. But the problem is the park is really a licensing agreement. So how much Sesame Workshop can step in and talk about this? They probably can't. My bet is they can't. It's not part of their
I'm almost
licensing agreement.
positive. I'm almost certain they can't.
It's about the same amount that Abigail Disney has to do with, stuff happening.
Exactly.
in Walt Disney.
Like-
That's what I'm saying. Like she's out there saying, people need to be paid this and people need to be treated better. But guess what? They don't care. Like they don't care
Right.
what she has to say. And I think it's the same thing in this situation with Sesame Workshop. It's not going to change anything.
Here's what I bet will happen is that all of those licensing agreements have, check-in points and expiration dates and
Sure.
renewals. But I have a feeling that when this comes up, when the next big sort of review with Sesame Workshop comes up, that this is going to be like, okay, as we move forward, here's what you're going to do differently, and here's what you're going to be very transparent and show to your guests that progress is being made.
It's a major hit to the Sesame brand, period.
Yeah, it's
It
not going to happen
is.
overnight, but it's gonna. I bet you that this is a topic of discussion that can't be talked about publicly from Sesame Workshop, but that eventually they will have to address it with the licensed store.
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, I just feel bad for the children, just like as a human and a child care provider, because where Sesame Place is predominantly, African American families. And with the core of what Sesame Street was made for, it, like you said, it just hurts them, but ultimately it hurts the children.
Yeah.
It's tough.
So hopefully everyone gets their shit together, but
I'm really interested to see how that lawsuit plays out. That would be interesting to see. I would like to see like that. I would watch that. Like what comes out in Discovery,
I'm curious. I think that, and again, I'm always sort of anti-lawyer, but I do feel like
I'm not.
Clearly.
I used to work for a lawyer.
Yeah, they're good lawyers.
I live with one.
and he's a good one, right? But it does feel like ambulance chasing. It feels like sniffing at
No, it does.
hurt.
It does. But I'm interested to see what'll come out in Discovery.
Well, I tell you what,
if it ever gets there,
I'm sure. Yeah, it's just going to be a settlement.
They're probably going to settle.
Yeah.
No theme park wants on the record. You can sue us if we don't,
Greet
pay
your
attention
kid.
to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Well, all
it's
that's going to
settled.
happen, I'll tell you why they won't go to court, because we've seen this before with Disney. So if you remember like 15 years ago, crap, there was a case where Tigger at Walt Disney World was accused of hitting a child.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And it actually did go to court, and what ended up happening is they brought an entire Tigger costume into the courtroom, and they had the person prosecuting the case try on the costume, because essentially, the point being is that Tigger cannot see anything. The character, I don't know if you guys want to leave this in or cut it out, but he sees out of the nose. You can't see.
Wait,
can't
I'm
see anything.
confused. What? How's that possible? He has eyes. I don't understand. No, this stays in. That's fine. These are.
I
fine.
know, but I'm just
we
saying.
we say bad words on this, so it's fine. Hey, look,
It's fine.
guys,
I'm
if your
telling
kids
you-
are still listening in the car at this point, you're bad parents. Just so you know.
So Tigger sees out of the nose. Most people have no idea that that's the case. They think he sees out of the mouth. He does not. He sees out of the nose. But the thing is that literally the attorney put on the entire Tigger costume in the courtroom. This is all on public record, and the case was dismissed. Immediately, because the attorney essentially realized that you cannot have any peripheral vision. You can't see anything at all.
And that accidents happen,
Right. Like,
So that's the precedent, but that's the precedent of anything involving characters in court. It's happened even before the Tigger incident. The Tigger incident, I got hired at Disney in the wake of that. I got hired 12 years ago. So it was like so I dealt with like the aftermath of that. And so what could happen in this instance is if they wanted to, they could say, oh, Rosita can't see X, Y, and Z. But I hope they don't go that direction. But
Sure.
I'm just saying that's the precedent, and it's not
Yeah.
hard to go down that road for them.
The only thing I'm intrigued by from a court perspective is Sesame Place does not have the cultural and economic impact that Orange County has with Disney and that relationship.
Sure.
Because any Orange County on California or Florida, if it goes to court, like you know, like everybody there is their cousin works at Disney. Like it is basically paid for. I mean, that's what lobbying it does.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And as I've mentioned on this podcast before, David Koenig's book, "The People versus Disneyland," is a great way of looking through that process. But when you have something that's like Sesame Place, which is less influence, it is not a theme park based culture. It may get a little farther. We'll see what happens. Speaking of people suing people, while also racing through New York, Jessica is going our biggest Universal stan possible here.
I am
a lover of Universal. What's going on over with Jimmy Fallon? Well, not really with Jimmy Fallon. He's fine, but his ride's in a little bit of hot water, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, from what I can gather, Universal is being sued over $5 million in unpaid invoices for the manufacturers and construction companies that help to build the ride. I see there is also some issues with their license and the use of intellectual property. So essentially, Universal tried to have the case dismissed, and the court disagreed. So it is going to go ahead and move forward.
Right. And that intellectual property, for people that might not understand, isn't Jimmy Fallon. Comcast has that.
Thank you. I was very confused.
Yeah. This is the ride vehicle system.
The ride platform, the motion platform.
Yeah, I was going to say, as someone who has dealt with systems of ride platforms literally yards away, what is that relationship like with manufacturers and that balance of what you need and the legalese of what they can do and that? Is it weird that there's a $5 million invoice, or is that like something what you're like, it's possible?
No, totally possible. Like the thing that for people to remember is there's within any theme park attraction or park itself, there's a mixture of what we would call sort of off the shelf ride systems, hardware, and then of course things like lighting and audio and stuff that are just component based. But the interesting stuff that you ride on is usually either something that's completely off the shelf that's just reskinned in cool scenery or a fiberglass shell, or completely sort of designed and engineered by Universal from the ground up, even if it's built by another manufacturer, like the Cat in the Hat ride vehicle, the Spider-Man and Transformers ride vehicles. Those were Universal creations, but built by MTS and Oceaneering respectively. But even the off-the-shelf stuff, like if Universal goes to IAAPA one year and sees, oh, there's this cool ride system we should use, which is probably how it happened for Fallon, because I remember seeing that very manufacturer a few years ago on the IAAPA floor. Even if they go to them, even if you buy it off the shelf from Universal, what they call the GPS, the general performance spec document that Universal has, it's their boilerplate for how everything has to work, be maintained, not kill people. Like it's like here's the engineering standard for literally everything in the park, is insane. Let me just tell you right now that when Disney Universal, when they establish those GPS things, they're all about mitigating no risk on their side. And so whatever engineering that company did for their piece of ride equipment, even if all of them have to pass what's called TUV, which is a German engineering standard for safety. And even if they do that, even if they pass the American standards and architecture structural that are all needed here to sell those kind of things, there's more on top of that Universal and Disney require. And so my assumption is, I don't know this. I don't know anybody working this ride, but
disclaimer.
I look at disclaimer. I know work in the creative, but I don't know the deals of this deal. I don't know the details. What I would assume from that is that manufacturer was like, oh my God, we're doing a ride for Universal, let's do it. And got into the weeds with them in terms of that general performance spec, underperformed and couldn't deliver. And Universal basically said, we're going to take the contract from here on out, and we're going to fix your stuff, and we're going to maintain it, and thanks, see you later. Because that's happened before, where Universal Engineering will go, there's less risk if we just take this over. And so That's what I would assume is what's happened. And maybe from the manufacturer standpoint, they're like, we had a contract, Universal. You need to make good on it.
So in theory, anytime maintenance has been done since Universal's taken it over, there should have been some payment given to them instead, or how? Like, what's that transaction like? What does that 5 million come from?
I bet you some of that is what they're calling the intellectual property, like the
Okay.
right to use
Sure.
because that a ride manufacturer who makes something that they want to sell all over the world,
Yeah.
they don't want to be restrained from selling that motion platform to a Six Flags park. But what they probably have is a geographic boundary that they can't. They're not allowed to sell 200 miles away or east of the Mississippi or whatever. But that part of their deal maybe is like, you get to have this ride, but every year we get this much amount, which is for ongoing preventative maintenance, checkups, and licensing for this piece of hardware that we own the engineering rights to. And again, I don't know any of this for fact, but this is looking at that article. It's probably a morass of truths that lie in a gray area between what was contracted and how it came out when it was done.
Right. And no shade towards dynamic motion, but you're like, well, you can't use this system 200 miles. It's like, oh, who cares? It's like a seat that wiggles. So it's like, it's not.
Well, if
for
you're
me,
the
it's
person
not that
making the
impressive.
wiggly seats, then
Yeah.
Well,
I get it.
There's plenty of
It's-
versions of wiggly seats.
Right. And that's the thing. People look at that and go, oh, it's another simulator. And I mean, inside baseball of it, it's actually a really interesting way they do that ride platform. It's actually suspended by cables
Oh,
at the
interesting.
4 pick points on the corners. It's not a big motion base underneath.
oh, I didn't know that.
That's
Yeah.
more fascinating the entire ride. So
Yeah.
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 I will agree with you there.
The way you said it, and I was thinking it, like,
yeah, perfect. We're in sync.
Get out of our brains.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, that's the funnier thing. Like, I love the weed stuff, but just the idea that like there's all this rigmarole over this frickin' Jimmy Fallon ride that frankly, like, I don't even know if it's going to be there in 5 years to 10 years. Like, I don't know when Fallon's done, but like, you ain't gonna
right?
have this
Like,
ride
when he
leaves.
leaves, what happens?
Yeah. So
It's a
it's
terrible
funny.
ride.
It's
Yeah.
like, I don't
Um,
know. I
kids
honestly
love it,
ride
though.
Supercharged before I would
I
ride Jimmy
can't.
Fallon.
Kids love it. Let me tell
Well,
you,
kids are
my
stupid,
son
so-
and his stepbrother.
That as someone
Kids
that
will love
works with them
anything.
40 hours, girl, I literally could pull out bubbles and they'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I say that because like they actually, that's like when he goes to Universal, he's like, I want to go on Jimmy Fallon. Like
That's
it's
wild.
It's
That's crazy.
wild. I
He
want to
can't
like
even
walk.
stay up to watch Jimmy Fallon.
No, he's never seen a bit of like any actual TV.
Your son
Um,
just listened to the Roots and he's just like, I gotta hear this in like 5.0. Like, give it
It's
to.
just
I need
really
that beat.
silly. It has like very juvenile, gaggy humor.
That's
and
why it sucks.
He and his
Yeah,
brother love that
I mean, that's Jimmy Fallon, all right.
it's Jimmy
Yeah.
Fallon. That's true.
for 9-year-olds and
Yeah.
under.
It's Jimmy Fallon stealing the race segment from Conan. If you're old enough to know that, it's absolutely true. Okay. Anyway, we're gonna move on from that to other Universal
Can we
news.
talk about Halloween Horror Nights now?
Jessica's been sitting here. Jessica's been sitting here like this whole time. We're talking about Marvel. She's just like frothing at the mouth to talk
Just
horror.
She's like,
bouncing
who the
quietly
fuck gives
in her
a
seat.
shit about
Let's-
Jimmy Fallon?
Let's go. All right. So Horror Nights, Jessica, what do we got?
There's a lot, but number one is that they actually announced another house. They announced the Weekend After Hours Nightmare, which I am pretty excited about. I gotta say, I went into this knowing nothing about the Weekend, knew nothing about his music, nothing. Just went into it after seeing the trailer, and I have to say I'm pretty pumped about it. But I have controversial opinions about music collaborative houses. And I shared this on my TikTok, and I feel like I would like your opinions on it. So a lot of people are talking about how they're either really excited or they're really not excited about it. I'm excited about all of Horror Nights. That's not the issue. I do not like historically how Universal does collaborations with musicians. I'll give you some examples. They've done multiple collaborations with Rob Zombie, and they've done one with Alice Cooper, none of which I've liked. I am a huge Alice Cooper fan. I know all of his music. I've seen him. I've met him in real life at MegaCon. I love Alice Cooper. Did not like the house. It was so esoteric that you could not enjoy it and get what half of it was referencing if you were not heavily familiar with Alice Cooper and what any
The
of that
Cooperverse
has.
is, yeah.
Right.
Cooperverse.
Yeah.
I love that. And the same thing with a lot of the Rob Zombie collaborations. Now, again, Rob Zombie is more than just a musician. He's also a filmmaker. He is
Yes, we've seen the
expert on
Monsters
horror.
trailer. He's very good.
That's him.
Yes.
Oh, you couldn't pay
that
me
is
to
Rob
see
Zombie.
that, then.
The
So
second
anyway-
trailer isn't quite as bad, but it's still bad.
Mhm.
There was another one?
I'm still gonna
Yeah.
see it.
I'm
still
so
gonna watch
sorry
it.
to have thrown this all off with the Monsters.
Universal does not do those kind of collaborations well. They just miss for me almost every single time. And I hope that that does not happen here, because I do see the potential. I did go back and like watch a bunch of his music videos to try and get an idea of like where they were coming at with this collaboration. I get it now, but I am just so, if I'm being fully honest, I am so worried that it's gonna suck. Like I want to like it, and I'm afraid that I won't.
I thought it was weird that they're going to have this house that's only open on Saturdays and Sundays. I thought that was a bit strange.
No,
That
it's
is,
not. It's not the
that's
weekend.
hilarious.
It's the weekend. It's the weekend.
Do I suddenly have 5 children? I made a dad joke, and I think I've
I think-
created
yeah,
children out
I
of
think-
thin air.
Out of yeah,
I am
poof.
immune. I'm immune to dad jokes. I have 2 children.
How am I wearing a polo? I'm going golfing tomorrow suddenly. How did this occur?
Oh my god.
So
my gosh.
my controversial opinion, like first of all, I'll be 100% honest. I'm very excited for that house. I love the imagery in the Weeknd's videos. I'm a passing fan of his music, and you know, you look at going back to Michael Jackson's Thriller. Like this is not uncalled for, right?
Mhm.
And so the people that are complaining about it, like. Okay, Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper. I'm with you, Jessica. I don't think they were the best houses, but those were still within the milieu of an audience that's into horror. Okay, the people that are complaining the most loudly about The Weeknd can die mad about it, because the way I see it is, if this is Universal trying to reach an audience that does not go to horror nights, this is trying to reach an
It
audience,
makes me want to go,
right?
and I've never
Exactly.
been.
Like I mean, the Billie Eilish house, I would have loved to have seen, because I was fascinated by what they were.
I
gonna
didn't like
do
that
to
one
take-
either.
Well, they didn't. It never opened, right? They never showed it.
Yeah,
I
they
didn't
had
like the
it for.
idea of that one. Yeah.
No, but I see it where I was like, okay,
I get it. I would get
it's
it.
a weird choice. It's a weird choice, but her imagery and her video is super fucked up, and it is aiming for an audience that is probably like between 13 and 18, who are just the prime age to go to HHN for the first time. And it's like, from a marketing and business perspective, it's freaking genius. Like I totally
It really
get it.
is. No,
Oh yeah, I can't
completely
argue with
get
it. Yeah, I can't argue with it. I just am worried that it won't be as good
Yeah,
as it should.
Same.
I mean,
I hope there's a section like his music video where you're running on the switchbacks and there's lights, and you know, if they recreate that, I'll be happy. Like, yeah, I'm in a music video.
oh no, I was just saying I'm excited for it, because I haven't done a musical house before. Like after they finally announced it, I was like, I guess I gotta listen to this before Beyonce drops her album. So I listened to it and I was like, the lyrics ain't giving horror. They're giving, I went through a depressive state and I missed my girlfriend. But then I looked at the music videos and I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see what it's giving, and I'm just gonna go in with an open mind.
I think the disconnect for me is that I love the imagery in his videos, but like what Victoria just said, like the music is fairly upbeat and poppy and not necessarily dark. There's a couple of dark tracks on the record, but I'm like, is it going to be a new score that he creates that is only like winks at his music, or is it just playing the soundtrack?
It's 6 songs from the After Hours soundtrack.
Okay.
But I will say I listened to After Hours and I was like, I could totally see this.
I
in a
can
fucking
see
haunted
it.
house.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
I
can
was like,
see it. Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, this is good.
I'll have to give it a listen. That's cool.
So Dave, are you gonna come?
Oh, we're gonna have it out here too.
Okay.
Yeah, so far all the houses they announced are that's gonna be on both coasts.
This is
Oh,
the first.
wow.
This is the first year that they're aligning them, and that's the plan from here on out. From what I hear,
Wow.
is that they're going to be the same. And so the marketing savings in the marketing, mainly.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It
I go
does.
to this. I go to this one and pine for Orlando because I know how much better it is. I'm sorry, John
Yeah, I can
Murdy.
imagine.
I love you, John Murdy. I was tour guides with John Murdy for a long time. He's a good friend. I think what they do here is pretty great, but it's just the park itself is so hamstrung by its size and its pathways and things that it gets to be a bit of a slog unless you have in front of the line pass. It's kind of not even worth going.
Dave, I'm offended that you insulted our Lord and Savior Mike Aiello on this podcast.
I didn't. No.
How
Mike's
dare
awesome.
you?
I'm very good friends with Mike as well. Mike's a sweet.
I'm
sweet
just kidding.
Well, tell Mike
I'm
to
just
release
teasing
the
you.
rest of the houses because we
He's-
tired.
Well, speaking of that,
Speaking
Yeah.
of that,
Speaking of that,
we might have already found out.
Yeah, apparently there was a shirt that was released that included house names on the back of the shirt. And we do have a picture of it. We already knew some of the releases, Halloween, which I am so excited about.
I feel like that's
Yeah.
become a standard at this point. Like everyone likes a Halloween house, and it's
Right.
It's and the series is concluding ish. So I
Right.
Sure
get
it
it.
So-
is. Sure, Jan.
Sure.
It's been concluding the last 15 iterations, but
Yeah.
I'm
sure,
like,
why not?
Lori, my
Um,
God.
Yeah.
And I
Lori.
did not exaggerate. I'm pretty sure there's 15.
You're absolutely
There's
correct.
the Monster Legends or the Universe Monsters Legends Clyde, which I love a classic
Yep.
monster house. I gotta say, all of
Same.
them 10 out of 10. The Horrors of what is it? Is it Bloomhouse?
Blumhouse.
Blumhouse?
Blumhouse. Okay.
I will say though that Black Phone was actually really good.
That's
Yeah.
true. If it's a black phone,
It was
It was
great.
good.
I really
I-
liked it.
I got a ticket the day they announced it, and I was like, damn, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
Ethan
I don't know
Hawke
how they're
still
gonna
got
do it as a house.
It's
but-
their big. I mean,
Yeah.
it's Universal's big horror brand, really, right?
Mhm.
It's their in-house production company that does, or their agreement with, So I'm not surprised they do that. What else is in it other than Black Phone in the Blumhouse one?
Freaky something.
Freaky, which is awesome.
Freaky's
If you-
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, Freaky's
It's
got
interesting
some
that
really
that made
nasty
it.
kills in it.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other. There's Spirits of the Coven, which they often do some sort of coven style house or
Yes.
street. I'm here for it. I know Victoria is gonna have. She's gonna serve one night with her sisters in the coven, just like living her best life.
Cash me
Pulling
at
everyone's
coven.
pulling everyone's tarot cards. It's gonna be great. You'll be the real world horror where you're like, you should probably watch your money for the next couple months.
Like, you really need to stop spending so much. The universe is telling
that's,
you
that's
no.
the real scary part.
Yeah.
But there are a couple though. The Bugs Eaten Alive one, I'm definitely gonna go in it. I have no issue with bugs, but I am very interested to see how they put characters in something like that.
I desperately want to go into the bug house.
It's going to be big bugs,
Yes.
right? It's not going to be
I-
tiny bugs. It'll
I'm
be big bugs.
hoping
I
that's
don't
true.
I don't go to these things.
Yeah.
Like I generally they don't really do a whole lot for me. It's like, oh no, a loud noise. That I want to see.
Are you like Bug Girl? Do you love the creepy crawlies?
Are you kidding me, Dave? I've talked about my license plate.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I like
I
bugs.
want to. I want
Yeah.
to go through that with you. Oh my God.
Yeah. I want to do like that's. I would go for that and the weekend, and then if I could do those two
And booze.
and booze, I would
Honestly,
probably have a good
yeah.
time.
Fiesta de Chupacabras is my favorite name because
Yeah, that's a
it
fun
barely
one.
makes any sense. And it's
It
just
doesn't make sense.
the festival
It's-
of the
it's-
Chupacabra.
It's white people Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
White
like
people won't
Senor
like this.
Rico's
White
taco house.
people
you know?
taco
Cater to Latin
night.
flavor while not putting off the white people.
Well, yeah, it actually though, but that has a history here in the California park when they weren't aligned between the two coasts.
Mm.
They were the first. They did way before the movie. They did, and it was for the local audience because there's a significant part of the pass holder audience that's Hispanic.
Sure.
They did a La Llorona house here like 10 years ago,
Oh, that
Yeah,
was
makes
and,
sense.
and it was probably in my top 3 Horror Nights houses ever. It was one of the scariest freaking things I've ever done, and really
It's
atmospheric and really
horrifying.
good. Yeah, it was.
That's gonna be a
terrifying.
pass for me.
There was this
That's-
moment in where you walked in, and it was one of those sort of supposed to be outdoor spaces, and it was like a flooded graveyard with like headstones sticking out of water, and you were walking on this wooden path over actual water, and there were dead children face down,
Oh my
bodies in the
god.
water.
No, that
Yeah.
La
was
Llorona she's terrifying. If you want to not sleep ever again, or to ever walk by a body of water at night.
Yeah.
So one thing though, I can't remember the name of the house. I'm hoping Dead Man's Pier. Is that based on something, or is that just like one of their weird original ones?
Oh, is it that one? I
Because
know what
there's
you're
one.
talking
They
about.
did a house. They did a house in year 21 here in Orlando, because that's the year I performed at Horror Nights.
Yes,
And they
I-
did
what
it,
is
and it was like
It was in 2006. Dead Man's Wharf was in 2016.
yeah, I'm not thinking
There
of
was,
that
no,
one.
there was
but you're-
another one.
There was another one that was like a sunken ship, and all of the sailors were the characters, and they had like barnacles all over their faces and stuff.
It looks like
I-
Dead Man's Wharf. I mean, it's probably very similar.
Right. It's like they're all like they kind of all are similar. So I'm wondering if that's kind of what to expect there.
They get to take all the Jaws stuff from the Legacy House and move it over. So it works. It's fun. Again, I'm a baby. I don't do these things. Give me a.
I was gonna
give me
say,
a-
Nathan, are we going? Like, is that
Nope, not gonna happen.
okay?
But
Cool. I
you
can't
know,
afford it
if
anyway.
they almost had me with the American Werewolf in London several years ago, if they ever do Gremlins, it's a must. But I'm still waiting, like everyone
I
else.
mean, if you want, I can just come back on here because I got a frequent fear plus pass, and then I can tell you all of my opinions of every house in
Of
every
course.
state.
Please,
Yes.
please.
Yep.
We are going to move on though from Universal to a wonderful our first segment of the night. We got some fun segments tonight, and we're going to talk a little Mickled and Dimed. We have, of course, Mickled and Dimed is our segment when we ask ourselves, is this really worth the money? What's going on? So this is not necessarily a. We could have done the Magic Band probably under Mickled and Dime, and that would have been a solid no. But no, tonight we're going to talk about an article that came out from the Hustle website, and it says America's favorite family outings are increasingly out of reach, and they did this huge sort of data dump where they looked at family income from 1960 to 2020. And from there, adjusted for inflation adjusted, of course, a normal family in 1960 was making about 55,000, and now they're making about 85,000. Okay, so 84,000 ish. That's kind of where we're at. So they looked at baseball
Is that
games.
inflation adjusted?
Yeah, that is
or
inflation adjusted.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
inflation
yes.
adjusted,
Because if
yeah.
it's not in 1960, they made about 5,000. So they looked at baseball games, and they looked at movie tickets, and they also looked at Disneyland, and where some things are sort of like, okay, whatever. Disneyland really does stand out, as you might expect. So the rate of inflation from 1960 to 2022 has been about 888%. Okay, so that's just sort of base level where we're at. When you keep that in mind, right? Hotels since 1960 at Disneyland have risen 2,372%. Tickets have done 2,585%. A child's ticket has risen to 3,872%. But here's the kicker, and it's parking. Parking since the beginning of Disneyland has risen 11,900%. So what we have here is some interesting statistics, and they also mention, of course, that okay, what are the hours that someone needs to work to afford these family outings for the family? Baseball game, really it's about 32% difference. So you have to work, instead of 3.8 hours, you have to work 5.1. Movies are almost exactly the same. It went up 22%, but it went from 1.4 to 1.7. When Disneyland was in 1960, it was about 13.5. Now it's 26.1. It's a 96% increase in hours you've got to work to afford to go to Disney. So what I love about this is the hours work required. Let's see here. That's the actual hours is about 300%, 72.8 hours to go to Disneyland, opposed to 18 in 1960. I just like hardcore data like this. I think it really we talk a lot about how Disneyland feels more, well, Disney in general feels more expensive over time, and yeah, for four tickets, 2 adults, 2 kids, and 1 night at a hotel and parking in 1960, adjusted for inflation, it would cost you about $359, $360 total. That's adjusted for inflation. We're already doing the inflation adjustment. Okay, about $360. It's now about 1,000 is what they're saying per unit. Okay, so this is for one ticket, one person, all that stuff. So it's quite the increase. What are your thoughts, people? What about this raw data do you like?
I mean, just from a travel agent standpoint, I would say it's a little bit more because the average trip I do goes into the 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
then you're also including like Genie
Magic Bands?
Plus and all that, and Magic Bands and all
Yeah,
that
yeah.
shit. They didn't consider that either. But I mean, I've been saying that for a while. Like they've just extremely been pricing people out, and I don't know if it's to manage capacity, but I don't even think that makes sense because they said that's the reason they have the reservation system in place. So I genuinely don't know what, especially for parking. I feel like parking is just absurd.
Oh, that's just that's an obscene thing. Now, the one thing though that the article does mention, and I think Dave's kind of biting at the bullets a little bit here to talk about, which is operating costs, right? Operating costs have certainly, there's a big difference between Rise of the Resistance and teacups, I think, when it comes to making them and keeping them up. But I don't think it's this much. Dave, what are your thoughts?
There's a bigger cost in operating a movie theater nowadays.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
Right.
Yeah.
there's just the digital technology and the back end that you need and the IT people you need on staff. Like, so yeah, that is partially true. Does Rise of the Resistance and its ilk require a 90+% increase? I don't know about that. Like,
Dave, isn't it a thing that this is like theme park economics, right? I took a class years and years ago on how they determine things like ticket prices.
Yeah.
And isn't the ticket price directly corresponding to their overhead every day based on the amount of tickets they expect to sell on any given day?
Yeah, and that's why they've slowly gone into like tiered pricing structure based on different day or time of year, time of week. But yeah, and then the other problem with that is that once one company raises their prices, it's licensed for every other theme park to raise them as well. We've seen this before. It's just the arms race of, oh, they went higher, so we can go higher now. And then it starts becoming perceived value. And I think when you have the added layer of stress of reservations and app and all the stuff we've been talking about, is Disney worth that? And it's a question I don't think there's an objective answer to, but I think it is going to eventually be something that people, you know, Universal is their competition, but has never been quite primed to best them as they are now.
Right. And the nutty thing, if you really look at the stats here, is the hours of work required to afford family outings. This is 1960s $2.70 an hour compared to 2022, which is $40.38 an hour. We're not talking about hours made at minimum wage. We're talking about very much kind of above middle class already. Like, and you still have to work
Yeah,
26 hours.
Don't make anywhere near 40 bucks an hour. Like my household maybe my household makes, like that's.
Yeah, it gets complicated real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a total household. That's two people, basically, two middle class people.
And it certainly doesn't take into
26
account the
hours.
fact that everything else is more expensive. Right.
Yeah.
Like so,
which is why I don't understand why like they're pricing it the way they are. Like, I just can't justify Magic Bands being like $45. I fucking can't. It's literally an Apple Watch. I pay less in monthly payments for my Apple Watch. Like,
it has way less functionality.
and it has way less function. That's what's blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Well, at least let it be like a pedometer that tracks your steps.
Right? Tell me when my period's coming, and then we'll talk.
But Victoria and I were talking recently, and I think that this definitely is pertinent to this conversation, is that, they are also, there's largely like an internet community or an internet divide between people who can and can't afford to go to Disney on a regular basis, whether it's families or otherwise. And it's really becoming a sign of wealth to go to Disney, almost like that designer handbag you wanted in middle school, right? It's like a status symbol versus a wholesome family vacation.
It's really interesting that you say that, because I'm someone who's always had an annual pass and it was fine. I could hang. And now I'm at the point now where like I make the most money I've ever made in my life, and my expenses outside of that necessarily, they've changed, but everything is so expensive that, including Disney, especially Disney, I can't afford to go to Disney anymore. I can't, like,
same.
Yeah.
I'm paying $120 a month for my son's pass and my pass.
Yeah.
And that's nuts.
I pay
That's
for
nuts, and
4
that's-
annual passes a month at Universal, and it's $77. That's
my
at
God.
Universal for 4 people.
Yeah.
Honestly, can I just say, like, I have a Hershey pass and a Universal pass, and both of those passes combined are still cheaper than what I was paying for my Disney pass.
My Universal passes are $50 or $60 a month for us, so half the price.
My Knott's pass here in LA is $109 for the year, first of all. And if you add all of Scary Farm, the entire month and a half of Scary Farm to that, it's another $85-90. So for less than $200, I can go to Scary Farm every night of the week. Or the park every weekend, like without reservations.
Here's where I'll do a little corporate advocating a little bit here, which is Disneyland. I can't make it work in my head, the AP price for that. Disney World, I do see it as, especially if you add the water park for $100 a year, we're talking 4 theme parks, a water park, and mini golf before 4. It's a lot. I mean, I'm not saying it's not. I don't think the price equals the complications of trying to make it work.
Well, there's also, you have to factor in when you're going to the parks, it costs a lot of money on top of that. Like, I'm spending probably $400 a month at Disney. Like,
It's crazy.
Well, that, but also keep in mind, like, yes, are you getting more access to more parks? Absolutely. But you're also getting a very difficult system as far as park
100%.
reservations and all stuff.
100%, yeah.
Like,
Yep.
literally, Disney is charging you more and making you jump through more hoops.
And don't even get started on Disneyland. They get penalized if they don't make their fucking reservations.
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, not a shock on this podcast, but I don't know, eat the rich. Moving on. But we got two Beware Our Guest segments to finish us out tonight. Dave, would you please?
Yeah, guest behaving badly. I mean, the first one is a fight that broke out in line for Mickey's Philharmagic,
Which is the
at-
funniest place to fight over a place in line.
Well, also, I
Well,
mean, you
true.
have-
It's not hard to get into Philharmagic.
It's a people eater. Like,
Yeah.
It's a
And you
people
end up
eater.
like corralled into a giant open space where your position in line really doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it was like, so the way it happened was evidently there was a family in line. One of them realized they left their phone in their mobility vehicle and got out of line to go get it. And on the way back in, they were sort of strong-armed by another family who would not let them rejoin their group. And that person's brother intervened and started a fist fight. And they were taken away by security. And one person went into an ambulance because they were lacerations and injuries.
And
It
that
was
was-
ugly.
An important
Ugly.
detail is
Yeah.
the family who didn't want to let them go waited for them outside of the exit to
Yeah.
confront
Right.
them again later.
Crazy.
Which is
That's a huge detail. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Right,
not
that-
heat of
yeah.
the moment. Like, that takes it
No.
from second-degree murder to first-degree murder and like
that's right.
premeditation.
Yeah.
Like, let it go. Go touch some grass, people.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
Christ's sakes. Like,
And
like,
now one family's banned and one is arrested. Just so how this is all ended.
wow.
Which is wild to me that the family got banned.
Which one got banned? The ones who put up the fight?
I would assume
No,
the ones
the
that
people who were walking through the line and got attacked by the family in white.
yeah, I think they're the
but
ones.
but I would say this: there's a lot of escalation that occurs.
Yeah.
at the end
I haven't
there.
watched the videos.
It's
which
a
is-
lot of stress. I mean, you're at a theme park where you have to plan every aspect of your fucking breathing hours.
It's a
Yeah.
stress factory now. It's,
Hundred
like,
percent.
it's
It's
just
just so
experience is
stressful
just
now.
one pressure point after another pressure point after another pressure point, and it's just not even
Right.
fun anymore.
I said the same thing, Janine. I was literally at the park in May and I spent a whole day there at Epcot, and I literally left, and I think I texted a couple friends and I was like, this was not fun anymore. It was stressful. It was not enjoyable at all at any point.
Yeah, I don't find this story that interesting, and one of the reasons that we put it on here is not necessarily to talk about the actual fighting, because people getting stressed and fighting at Disney is like, yep,
It happens
um,
all the time.
But I do think that the sort of the spark that lit this bomb and made it explode of line cutting is a very interesting little topic to cover here, because I think we've seen Disney recently have signs where they've said, you can't rejoin your family. It's not on every ride or anything, but they've tried to make some sort of statement about, hey, you can't use somebody as a line holder, and then 6 people are like, excuse us, we have to reunite with our family, which are about to get on Rise. Like, that's not how the system works. So you see this this need, and again, I think this kind of goes back to our conversation about stress and trying to get as much out of the money you have to pay as possible, right? Well, we're gonna go do this because we were able to get the lightning lane at this time for this. You go over there and get in line, and then we'll meet you later. I get why people are doing it, but what are your guys' thoughts on line cutting, line butting? Have we seen more of it recently? Is it a worse problem?
It's one of those things where there are rules, and they're cutting in line is not cool, right? And if
Right.
you go into line but you text your family going, I'm in line, catch up with me when you get here, and 5 people go, excuse me, and push by, that is not cool, and that should be called out. That is bad behavior, right?
Mhm.
Right.
If I'm in line and my kid throws a tantrum and needs to go to the bathroom, or I left my medicine in my ECV and I really need it, or I need my phone because my kid's going nuts and I need to let him play his mobile game. Like, getting out of line when you're already in there to do something briefly and come back should not be an offense that somebody starts a fight for, right?
I agree.
Like,
I agree.
I think that, like, just biology alone dictates that some people are going to have to leave line. That's
Yeah,
happens all the
especially
time.
with lines the way they are. They're long.
Yeah. So I just
buy
think
lightning lane.
I think it's unreasonable to expect. I think it's unreasonable to expect people to have to, stay in line rigidly. And it's not it is black and white if you have not been in line already. That is wrong. It is a gray area and should be evaluated case by case basis when it's somebody leaving the line to go get something that they need.
I always sort of have this, and it's hard to gauge when you're in the middle of it, right? But like, if there are more people getting into or butting than there are in the reserved spot, that's the problem, right? If you've got 4 people and 2 are kind of meeting them, I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, but like, it's that situation of the 1 or the 2 and 6, right? Like, and I get it. Like, there are the moments where it doesn't matter, and I think it's when the people are kind of like, I'm really sorry. Like, there's this desire for some of them to make it very clear, like, I know what I'm doing. Please just let me through. Like, it's, and you kind of go, okay, it's fine. But then there are the others that just have this like mentality of like, no, my family's up there and I'm going to go and I'm going to enjoy this. And like, I need you to get out of my way. And that's where that's the moments where I get all like, to quote Walter Sobchak, like, does anyone else give a shit about the rules? Like, mark at 0. Like, this is no more of that sort of, I can't allow it to happen. And it's tough. I feel like it's case by case, ride by ride. I think some rides make it easier to have that happen and it doesn't feel too crazy. And other rides, you're like, absolutely not.
I just wanted to add, when I was reading the update from the family that got banned but not arrested, and they said that they were told that they had to leave their resort, which was the Riviera, and they said that they were staying for 2 more weeks. And so I was like, how much is that? And so I went and looked it up. That's $10,000.
Clearly, Bob Chapek was not involved with the decision to kick them out.
$10,000,
and they don't got to give that money back.
Yeah, that's true. That's all reserved.
What?
Yeah,
they don't got to give that back.
Goodness.
Now, to be fair here, that is what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
This is allegedly.
That's true. People do lie a lot.
Just so we're clear,
people lie a lot. Yeah,
but I don't know. I kind of feel like
if I spent $10,000, I'm not saying Disney made me leave.
My thing is, if you're already spending $10,000, I'm a little curious
why you didn't get a plaid.
Why you didn't get a plaid? Yeah, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, right.
At that point,
Fair.
I did see. A total side note, but I was there recently, of course, and I saw 2 people with 3 plaids. I don't understand it. Doesn't make any sense in my head. It wasn't Beyonce. I don't know.
Wait, isn't it 1 for every 7 people?
Yeah,
it was a strange scenario. It could have been multiple groupings going to a ride or something, but it was just the weirdest thing to see 2 people and 3 plaids. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's my new band, by the way. You can follow us on Facebook. 2 people and 3 plaids.
3 plaids. 3
Can
plaids.
I play bass?
Yeah,
absolutely. We play new wave polka. So
I love it.
Perfect.
I love it.
Yeah,
big fan.
Perfect. Dave is going to be our guest accordion player.
Please do. Dave, we have a much funnier story. Could you please tell us what's had to happen? We don't normally get this. This is a universal story, which I think is it's nice to head on over.
People behaving
Universal has
badly
even
at
better.
Universal.
Yeah, they have even better stories apparently. So this one's good.
This one's crazy. This is wild. He was at Volcano Bay, and this guy went to a closed restaurant in Volcano Bay called Krakatoa Katie's. The door was open, but it was closed. There was nobody in it. There was this, who knows if there's a rope across or it said closed or whatever, but it was not operating. There was nobody in it. So how he got in, if it was unlocked and he opened the door, it's unclear. It says he went into an unlocked door. He went behind the counter, poured himself a delicious adult beverage for free.
Do we know what that beverage was? I'm just curious. I don't think it's in the
5-finger discount. It does not say.
That's a
shame. It says it costs $50, which I don't understand. Hopefully that's multiple, or maybe you got a tiki glass or 2. Who knows?
Maybe that's like top shelf.
I would assume top shelf.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to serve yourself for free,
sure, I'm going to go top shelf for sure.
Yeah.
The comedy of it is when he tried to leave, the door had shut behind him. And it was locked and he could not get out, which is odd, but I get it. If a restaurant's closed, it's probably secured for all sorts of, risk and safety reasons and theft. And he forcibly made his way out. Like he rammed against the door 3 or 4 times until like the lock broke and strolled out and like scurried away. Like the margarita guy in Jurassic World. Like, oh, here we go.
The margarita guy being Jimmy Buffett himself.
Jimmy Buffett?
Just
was that actually Jimmy
Buffett?
Was
actually
yeah,
Jimmy Buffett. Yeah.
That was Jimmy Buffett.
That's funny. I did not know that. Okay, so but then it gets funnier. So they looked at the footage and they saw this guy in green swim trunks and a pink belt bag entering through the unlocked door and getting trapped in and then breaking the door to get out. They 2 hours later, he went to security to get help for an item that he lost. Okay, this is just dude. And they had already sort of identified him because of what he was wearing, and the Orlando police was notified. He was detained in questions. He admitted he should not have gone inside and said, I fucked up, and was taken to jail. So
that must have been
like,
a good drink.
Wow.
I hope that was a real good drink, dude. I really do.
PSA from the girlfriend of a former public defender: don't tell the cops you fucked up, even if you fucked up. Just don't do it. It doesn't help you.
To admit guilt.
Just shut your fucking mouth. That's it. Don't talk to cops.
But I will say Universal is largely so much better than other theme parks at getting rid of people and actually following through with punishment like this.
Sure.
Like
They are.
when I worked at Horror Nights, I got hit in the face, like, and I wasn't wearing a mask, it was just my face, like, got hit in my face by somebody who'd been drinking. And literally Universal Security and Orlando Police Department got the guy. He didn't even make a run for it. Got it. They are good at, and the guy got trespassed, all that stuff. They, we filed charges. I was taken to Dr. Phillips Hospital and all that stuff just to get checked out. But like Universal largely is pretty good at following through with their standards there.
And this is sort of I don't know if this is why, but I kind of feel like there's this Disney sort of, we gotta keep things behind the scenes. Let's, for example, the thing about what happened at PhilharMagic, right? They took them to separate security areas and talked through it. Like Universal's just like, what's up? We're like the teen theme park. Like we get it. Like you walked through City Walk, we're punk. Like we're gonna just arrest this guy. Like I just feel like there's less of this desire to be like, well, we're gonna keep it behind the scenes. They just do it because it needs to be done. I think especially during Horror Nights, like, come on, you're there for a reason. So
I always imagine Disney jail to be sort of cartoony. Like there's, Mary Poppins is in there selling spoonfuls of sugar, if you know what I mean. Like, so the seven dwarves are each in a different cell. It's
It's not exciting, you guys. It's really not. That's the thing. So but I will say, as somebody who's dealt with security and like filing for injuries at Disney and Universal will actually
what a fun
do
life
something.
you've lived.
I've been hit in the face several occasions.
Oh.
But Universal actually seemed to care that, somebody actually physically assaulted me, whereas Disney was like, oh, you don't want to have to fill out this report. And if you go to health services, you're going to have to be on modified duty for like 6. So that's the thing, is like, that's a difference, is like Disney largely just wants to like kind of sweep it under the rug, like you said, keep it backstage, whereas Universal, I literally wrote my statement and gave the police report in front of guests at Universal because the guy was standing there, and like I identified
and I
the guy.
think Universal wants other people to see.
Yes.
Don't fuck around.
Right. Fuck around and find out. They're like,
and that was like 11 years ago. So that wasn't even like recent. That was back then.
Yeah.
My experience with Universal, that in a similar vein, is I remember my cousin, who was like 19 or 20, got banned for a couple years for drinking alcohol if they're underage. Like they're enforcing that too, or at least they were that over a decade ago. But yeah, they you look questionable, they'll
well,
ask for your ID.
speaking of non-questionable things, which is people's very avid endorsements of what we do here, we have a 5-star review, and as we've said, we're going to read our 5-star reviews, and if you'd like to leave us a 5-star review, you certainly can on Apple or any sort of thing. Apple's best because it helps with getting the word out in their platform and algorithms and whatnot.
Can I read it?
I think Janine was going to read it.
Oh, Janine, you read it.
Yes.
You read it. Go for it.
I get to talk. Yay, I get to have
Yes,
things.
Janine's hosting this segment. This is her segment. So. Indeed. What's our 5-star review? But we're all excited about it.
Yeah, this is from Itsy Bitsy Minnie, which is a very
Yay.
cute little pseudonym there. I love that. And Itsy Bitsy Minnie wrote a 5-star review and said, I love this show. I love the people in it. I'm so happy there's a show with unique and diverse hosts that all share their own specialized insight. Rat Castle is my new favorite castle. Sorry, Disneyland, your tiny castle stood no chance.
Sorry, Disneyland. So we do
Bless
Disneyland.
me.
There's a
Yeah.
little bit of shade in there. We love a little bit of shade.
Shots
It's
fired
so hot
at
here in
Itsy Bitsy Minnie.
Florida.
Come on now.
Yeah.
No, I'll take it. We're the best. So, well, there you go.
Fired.
I know. So
Yeah,
thank you
that's
so
a great
much.
one. That was
Thank you so
great,
much,
Itsy
Itsy
Bitsy
Bitsy Minnie. We appreciate
you.
it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So to end, of course, we want to not only showcase ourselves here with our 5-star reviews, but also Jessica. Where can people find you? You're all over the place online. Where can people
Yeah.
get more of your opinions when you're not just on here?
Well, you can find me on TikTok, which is my largest platform, and my handle is at Tremainetok, Tremainetok. And on Instagram, it is the same name, but add Jessica to the end of it. So Tremainetok Jessica and Tremainetok on Twitter.
Oh, thank you so much, Jessica. It was wonderful to have you as always. You're always welcome
Thank
back
you.
here in our castle. Always has a seat available. And of course, Rat Castle is produced by yours truly, Nathan Hartman. Please consider subscribing so you don't miss an episode, and tell all your friends and give us reviews and whatnot. And if you have any questions you have for us or want some links, you can find all of our material at bit.ly/ratcastle, or you can visit our website, which is ratcastlepodcast@podbean.com. Thank you all for joining us, all my esteemed rats here on the panel. And for you all listening, you are now able to grab your belongings and exit to the lounge.
Will you stop this foolishness?
What foolishness would you like to see?
Will you get out of here?